I'm having a beautiful cup of Turkish coffee here. This invention, in which many stories lie, is the most desirable drink after water, and it has so many mysteries and magic behind it. It's like brewing a cup of history and a piece of heart in it. And why do you think it's very important? It's because these are made out of the pearls of the greatest invention ever, which is coffee. But in order for me to unpack and tell you the stories behind it, I will have to take you back 1,000 years ago. Now let me take you 1,500 years back to unpack two of the most interesting stories about the origins of coffee. The first story about the origins of coffee is the one of the shepherd called Khaldi. So Khaldi was a shepherd in Ethiopia, and the story says that around the 9th century, Khaldi discovered coffee. How he did that is one day he was with his sheep, with his flock somewhere in the mountains, and when he came back and he went home and he wanted to go to sleep, he heard that his animals are being very noisy and very loud. Normally that didn't happen with his animals before. So Khaldi thought that there must be something wrong with them, and he went to check on them, and he realized that actually nothing seemed wrong, but they were so energetic during the night. So Khaldi went the next day to see where he had been the previous day, and he realized that there was a tree, a cherry tree that he didn't recognize and didn't see before. When Khaldi picked up these cherries, he realized that this was what was keeping the animals alive and energetic at night. Now there's another story, and the story that I'm going to tell you now is the story that I actually think is the correct one, because it has a continuance. In the 13th century, there was a mystic called Abu Hassan al-Shadhili. Abu Hassan al-Shadhili is also known to be the founding father of the Sufi order called the Shadhiliyya. The story is actually very similar. It says that Imam al-Shadhili also was at the same time a shepherd, and while he was feeding his animals, they had eaten something from the cherry tree of the coffee, and then again the energetic and the loud and the noise, and then Imam al-Shadhili went again to check this tree. Nevertheless, we know for sure one thing. We know that the discovery of the coffee bean changed a very important history course, and Imam al-Shadhili and his group of students, when they were traveling to Hajj, they were actually consuming these cherries in very different ways. Sometimes they were eating them just as they were, sometimes they were taking the beans and putting them in bread, and they were trying to consume them in different ways to take the effect so they could actually continue their night worship. When they embarked on the Hajj pilgrimage, when they took the ship to go to Mecca, they actually ended up going somewhere else because of a sea storm. So a storm happened and their ship actually ended in a very different city, and this city is known to be Mocha. And yes, I know the word sounds familiar. Mocha is a city in Yemen where Imam al-Shadhili and his group of students ended up because of the sea storm with a lot of coffee from Ethiopia. Now this is very interesting because this was a very important point in history where things changed a lot. A disciple of Imam al-Shadhili called Abu Amr al-Shadhili decided to change the way he consumed coffee. Abu Amr al-Shadhili, he was consuming coffee firstly in cherry form, and then he decided to change that, and maybe he tried to remove the bean, right? So he had the beans with bread, but he still decided that this doesn't really taste very good. And then he said that he wants to try something else. So what he did is he tried roasting the coffee bean. Again, after roasting, he tried, it was too hard, he didn't like it. What happened is, after roasting them, he tried to crush them. After he crushed them again, he put them in bread, but he felt it was too bitter. Abu Amr al-Shadhili decided that this crushed roasted coffee should be mixed with water and turned into a drink. This is the first man who ever brewed coffee, and this is the first man who ever had a sip of coffee and changed the history of humankind.